Hello and welcome to another episode of the Complete Agent podcast, where each week we get together to talk all things estate agency. My name is Dave Warburton. I am joined as ever by my industry colleagues, Mr. JK and Ian Storey, and also today, after an amazing podcast last week, Michelle is with us as well. So it's all four of us today, which is quite rare actually, isn't it, guys? But I'm sure it's going to be a value add.
I'm sure the ratings are going to plummet now. You two idiots are back on here,
especially after this intro. But yes, I'm sure it's going to be a really valuable episode. Last week's was really good, guys. I caught up on it a couple of days ago. So lots of value there as well. So thanks, Michelle, for bringing some order to the podcast and being unpacked several times by JK. Right, as always, let's start with the usual tradition. How's your week been? Let's go to you, Michelle.
My week's been good, varied. We have been working on our social media presence at TCA. So I have done lots of planning and preparing of social posts. So that's been good. And I've done a few follow-ups with my coaching clients, just keeping them accountable for the things that they're working on. So it's been a varied week.
Good. And you, Ian Storey?
Good week, yeah. Good week, mate. No fallers. A few nice listings.
What was that? Sorry. I have to. What was that?
No fallers.
Good. It was good. A good week.
You finished?
You went very high pitch.
We really missed you last week.
Are you ready?
Oh dear.
You all done there?
Start again, Ian.
Thanks. So I've had a couple of, I think probably 4, 5, 6 good listings. A couple of £1 million. Nice one at 9, nice one at 7, nice one at 6, nice one at 5. So some really nice listings from me and Matt. A few nice sales agreed as well. Phil agreed a cracker yesterday, just under 1.5. That's been sticking for ages because it's on a really busy road. But he's done really well. I think they started their offer below 1.4 when it's agreed at just under 1.5. So he's got him up 100 grand. And then a couple of other smaller, cheaper sales, but still nice gold dust stuff. We had our new valuer, Vicky, start yesterday. So she came out with me on a couple of appointments. I think she's going to work out really well. So all good. Also, our mortgage, we've started a mortgage brokerage, which is going well. We'll get some good leads over. So we're just sort of putting all that in place now with the branding. And we're going to launch that fully on social media in the next couple of weeks, I think. So really, all good from me as it stands. Our issue currently is the time it's taking to get stuff exchanged and completed. You know, the pipeline is great. We must have one of the best pipelines in the industry, but the time, my God, to get stuff exchanged, this first 5 months has been really, really slow, you know, and definitely lower on cash than I would have liked. Things are just taking so long to get through. But, you know, that's, I think, an industry-wide problem that we're all up against. I'm not really sure what can be done about it, but overall, I think the headline is that we're in a good place. We're about to launch our Knutsford office as well. So we're moving into a new area, which is exciting, really nice high-value area locally that we've not done much in. But we've got a little office there, and we're going to push into that new area soon as well. So, yeah, all good, mate. All good. How about you, JK?
Okay. We've offered a role to our new home stylist as well, and we've got the weekend role sorted as well. So we've got 2 positions filled now moving forward, which is really good. The sales wise, in the last week, we've done sort of 3 deals, which is okay. I'm happy with that. Good end to May. I mean, we didn't actually sell a huge amount in May. In the end, I think we just about ended up on double digits, but I mean it was 6 figures into the pipeline, just simply because of the obviously level of sort of fees that you're dealing with. It all slots into the pipeline nicely. So I think we ended up on. I was just looking actually now while I was talking to you, hence why I was stuttering. 11 deals in the end, but you know, average fee like well into 5 figures. So it actually looks really, really healthy on paper. 11 deals wouldn't have been great 7 or 8 years ago, but no, pretty happy with that. Take-ons has been pretty good. We've not really put anything on at the upper end recently. We haven't had that many vowels, disappointingly, really, at sort of 1.5 plus. But we've got One just signed up at 950, another one 850, one at 650, one at 750, and one at 6. So all decent fees, upfront fees as well, and some really good stock actually. One of them is, well, two of them actually. One's on the best road in one of the best villages. Another one's on one of the best roads in Bedford at 950. We sold next door. Maybe we can unpack it a little bit today in today's podcast. I know you like a bit of unpacking, Dave. But yeah, they saw us doing the take on for next door, and they obviously ultimately saw this. We'd sold it and had a chat with our client as well. But it was just, I was just going to go into, without diving too deep into the detail just now, that when we did the sort of listing, they saw the van turn up with the home styling team. They saw the photographer. They saw me filming out the front. They saw the drone go up. They saw stuff coming in and out of the house of the van. Then also they'd noted they'd seen people for viewings and stuff as well. They saw they'd seen a brochure for next door. Like she said yesterday when we were talking, I was talking to the couple, and they were like, "You just seem to do so much." They were on the market 8 years ago, and all they got was pro photos. So somebody was in and out in 30 minutes, and a Rightmove listing. And then just to see the full works that went on, they were really impressed. And it's a great house to have. The slight annoyance is we're going to have to bend slightly on fee and come down from 2. But it's not a bad place to be when you can sort of shake hands at maybe 1.75, 1.8 plus that, to get a house at roughly £1 million on one of the best roads in the town that you know is going to sell. You know, at the end of the day, we're not talking about doing 0.7% or 0.8%. You know, we're still going to get upfront fees, still going to get an amazing fee out of it. But you set your benchmark at a certain level, and I'm already double what the average fee is locally anyway, if not more in some cases. So, but yeah, I mean, overall, great week. You know, it's not been, I think, just to be real, we haven't been rushed off our feet, busy as a business, with inquiries and sales. I think the half term in the last week slowed things down for us with the really hot weather. And speaking to a few agents across the country, people have found similar. But again, you put one of those listings on, they're sort of generational listings at the right price, the phone soon starts to ring. But yeah, overall, pretty pleased with how things are going. And David, I know you've been waiting there with bated breath.
I have indeed. Thank you, JK. Yes, so far so good. It's been a good year.
Brilliant. Thanks, Dave. Right, we're going to talk.
Last month was really good. Really good. You'll be pleased to know, JK, we're only negotiating 4 offers.
No, right, okay. You switched it up
Offers.
since I called you out the other week.
Yeah.
7 offers. The people are still waiting there by the phone, waiting to be called back. Dave Robertson guy, he's not calling me back.
So yeah, 4 offers we're negotiating. And to be quite honest with you, all 4 of them are challenging. They're not near where we need them to be. So nothing agreed on those. But we did agree 3 sales last week as well. Gold dust stuff. We agreed one at 515, another at 750,000, and another one at 800,000. So, you know, a good week last week on sales, and we've got 7 in photography at the moment. Weather is proving challenging this week. I was obviously away last week, and it was cracking the flags over here. So yeah, it was hot over here, but this week has been an absolute washout. So we've had to cancel 3 take-ons this week, which has put the diary back. But yeah, valuations are good as well, quite strong. So I can't really complain. It's all pretty good. I'm just finding it very challenging getting deals over the line at the moment. Just a lot of back and forth with offers, and obviously keeping homeowners up to speed. And in reality, you know, I had a good half an hour on the phone with one of my clients last night, talking to them about the market conditions, and just, you know, they've already reduced twice and are in a position where the property's still not selling, but their particular local market is moving considerably, and unfortunately it's moving down. So yeah, just having to keep in touch with clients more than ever, and yeah, being really tough on negotiations. But overall, it's been a good year, and the last month was good as well. So fingers crossed we can continue in that vein in June.
Perfect. Right. So we were going to talk about what today, Michelle? You had today's topic lined up. So
Yeah, I
you
did.
introduce it.
Yeah. So on LinkedIn this week, I was having some back and forth with another agent, Craig from Northwall, and we were just commenting and talking on how buyers are using AI when they're structuring their offers. So it's very statistical and data heavy. And they're coming up with these kind of very much data driven reports as to why they're offering, why, the level that they're offering. And I think it's really interesting. And I can see from other forums and groups that it's happening across the board. And it's also happening with disputes in lettings and things like that. So, it's not going away. And I think it's actually a great area to focus on because I think there's lots that can be taken away and applied practically as agents to help steer both the seller and the buyer through this process. You had some thoughts on it, Dave, didn't you?
Well, I mean, my view is I think it can be quite helpful.
Ooh, controversial. Come on.
Well, listen, I
In
think,
what way?
Dave, are you AI?
well, with buyers, with buyers having data, you mean? I mean, I don't mind it because it adds a little bit of realism to what's actually happening in the market. I think it can work both ways. Before we came on air, we were talking about a couple of examples where statistical data is needed and the right person needs to be handling those types of phone calls. And I think, to be fair, Ian, you mentioned Phil being very, very good with his statistical data and being able to back stuff up and challenging buyers. I had one yesterday that, funnily enough, talking about one of those offers. He's made a £710,000 offer on an £800,000 house. He's looking at a house that's sold in 2021 for the same value. And he's going, well, that's what I think the market's, that was the absolute peak of the market. It's dropped since then. So I'm going to make the same sort of offer. And he's actually incorrect. The market has gone up 15% since that house was sold. And although we're on a bit of a downward trajectory, it was quite an interesting conversation to have with him. But when you are talking about levels of reductions and things like this, where houses are stuck, to be honest, I think that it can help your negotiations with the seller. I think it can help you with brand new instructions because what do most sellers want to do before they go on the market? What do they have in their head with the price? They'll need educating, but they'll always have a figure roughly in their head what they think the house is worth. Let's say that they think the house is worth 900,000. Their automatic reaction for 99% of sellers, I think, is to, right, well, we'll put it on at 950 or a million because we're always going to get knocked down. And what they fail to realize is that buyers now have got access to more data than ever before. So being more competitively priced to create that competition and dig into the emotional connection of a buyer is more important than ever before. Hence why, I could go down a rabbit hole here, but when you're selling a home and presenting a home, this is why video is incredibly important, because you can really talk about what you can do with a house and how you can showcase it and things like that, and talk about the lifestyle that the home offers. But if we're purely talking about stats, data, all that sort of stuff, I don't mind it. I like buyers having the information because it brings a bit of realism to the market. And I think that sellers need to get real. And right now, in particular, there is too much overpriced stock. There's 35% of houses have been reduced on Rightmove. It's massive. So, I don't mind it.
I think AI has its place, but also the other thing about AI is that AI isn't always correct. People assume if they use ChatGPT and say, make this offer on this house, and it could be like, and add statistical data to back up my low offer, and it'll add in there something like, M dash, like, oh, this isn't this, it's this, and according to X, Y, and Z, it's this. And then they'll copy and paste that to you as the agent, and you go, well, that's all wrong. Go back to them and say, actually, this is all wrong. They'll then go running back to ChatGPT and go, the agent said this is wrong. And the ChatGPT will be like, good catch. You're right. We are wrong. And then that person feels like an idiot then. So AI is only as good as what you put into it. And that's why, I've been much more Team Claude than I have Team ChatGPT in more recent times. And one of the things, like if we're going back to what you said at the start, Michelle, about not just negotiation, but agents using it in things like letting scenarios, like having the Renters' Rights Act downloaded fully and available to that not ChatGPT, to Claude or whatever it is that you're using, and asking it to specifically reference that and double check anything that you say before you say it is crucial, because then it will quote the source and quote the article from where it's from. So it's very important what you, and I love AI. I mean, me and Dave have talked about all the AI tools that we're using at the moment with enabling us to write emails quicker, get back to clients quicker. My proposal process that I've shared with you guys as well, in terms of how much quicker I can put data together and analyze statistical data and get to the numbers I need to. So when I'm in the living room and post living room, the data is there. Like, I don't have to sift through different spreadsheets and bits and pieces. I can get it all there and ready in front of mind.
Yeah,
Dave.
I mean, I'm sorry, just on the AI thing. I mean, I'm obviously referring to data and having data at your fingertips and things like that. You know, if somebody writes into ChatGPT, you know, how much of house price has been affected in the last 5 years in this particular postcode and all that. AI is a great tool, and it will make people seem more articulate, but it doesn't change the fact that you are supposed to be the expert. And if people are coming back at you with stuff, you just need to be armed with the stuff yourself. And if you're not, there's a problem.
That's the point. Yeah, if you know the data in your local market well enough yourself,
Yeah,
then it doesn't matter what data buyers have got.
absolutely.
If you know the genuine data, then you can argue the point, can't you? And if the buyer is right, that maybe the house is priced wrong, and it helps you with the seller to show them.
Yeah,
I
and
always say
experience as well.
valuation is subjective. It's worth what someone's prepared to pay.
Absolutely, JK.
You know,
But
when you say that is partly true. Well, obviously it's massively true. But what I meant was, it's partly true in terms of the emotional side of the purchase.
yeah,
So if they really, really, really want it, then, as we all know, emotion beats logic.
of course it does.
But I think there's a real danger here, and I think this is where there's a huge learning point, is when you're doing a negotiation or those conversations are opened, you need your team to be able to handle that type of conversation and negotiation. So you could go to war with data. So you could be sparring for a long time, but that isn't the point, is it? So it's what skills have your team got to be able to disagree without being disagreeable? How can they de-escalate somebody who is kind of on the charge, armed with their report and their statistics and their data, and is really kind of headstrong and focused into getting the result that they want? Because that isn't going to give you a productive negotiation conversation, is it? So it's understanding and being able to handle that type of approach rather than it becoming combative.
Yeah, I agree. And I just think it makes people seem more articulate. But it doesn't change the fact it's noise, in my opinion. I think that as long as you know your local market and you know that the house, and you know how to negotiate emotionally as well with that particular person. Everybody wants to try and get a deal, but ultimately, how much do they want the house? So
it all goes back to their why, though. Like, again, you can talk about figures and data, but removing all of that, as you've all said, the emotional side of things, and the best negotiations and deals are done, in my opinion, by asking the best questions.
Yeah.
And having people come into their own conclusion about why because they need to justify. How many times have we done man maths or girl maths and gone, this needs to be, I don't know, you've saved, I don't know, X amount of pounds on someone else, so it can justify you going on holiday with the lads for, 800 quid, or, you make the justifications in your own mind. And to kind of do that back to agency, when you're speaking to someone and saying, what is it about this house that is making you offer that amount? So let's say, for example, they're at 710 instead of 800. Tell me, where have we come to 710 rather than email? Because this is where ChatGPT, and that there's no, you say it a lot, Dave, there's no tone of voice in text. And ChatGPT is very matter of fact. And if you go back very matter of fact with your own AI or your own voice, it's very matter. Whereas there's a great invention, and a lot of people have got them now. They're called phones, and you could pick it up and speak to a person at the other end.
Yeah, so true.
Have a conversation with because everyone's I even had to say this to one of my team the other day. An inquiry came in, and I was like, "Are they booked in?" I've emailed them. What are you doing? Why are you emailing? Yeah, pick up the phone. Pick up the phone. Like, they've just emailed though. Yeah, and they must be by their phone then. Ring them, and if they don't answer, then you can email or WhatsApp or whatever. But anyway, going back to the whole point of what I was about to say, with the offer, you know, just tell me a bit about where you got to 710. And they then start saying, well, Dave, they've dropped by 15% in this area and blah blah blah. And then you can then, like you quite rightly said, Dave, actually prices have gone up 15% since they bought it. And if you look at the data, so when we actually valued this house, we actually put together a full data set about where it sits in valuation. And actually, I think you'll find that the data supports nearer 8 than it does 710. And then you can then use, if you really wanted to, the spread. Like I put obviously the spreadsheet together of the transactions that are available there. Show the data to the buyer and say, look, this is the data that supports the valuation. Let's have a conversation about where you are, where they are, and where can you get to, and why is 710 on the table? What have you seen elsewhere that's brought you to a £710,000 offer?
I think there's also a concern as well from buyers that they're going to be paying too much in this market, and they're worried about negative equity as well. I think there's a genuine concern for a lot of people because of what's happening. So again, whenever we put forward a low offer, sometimes you've got to empathise. Obviously, sometimes you get derisory offers, but when I speak to homeowners, you often say, look, it is low, but these are probably the reasons why we're looking at such a low offer, because we are in a bit of a market that's trending downwards at the moment. There's a lot of my local areas at the moment trending downwards. I think most are. There's the odd anomaly, but I think buyers, justifiably so, are concerned. They don't want to overpay. I mean, look at people who overpaid in 2008 on Northern Rock mortgages, where they ended up. So there's a little bit of that, and as we've talked about in the past, I think the market still is suffering a bit of a recession type feel to it. And you've got to be, I think buyers have got to be careful. But again, it comes down to the why, as you've said. I was with a client yesterday showing them around a big house that we've got for sale. And, they were walking around and he was sort of saying, I like this side of the house. It's about an acre of ground. He was like, I like this side of the house. I'm not keen on this. I'd have to do a lot of work here. And he's gone inside and he says, I don't like the style of it. And it's going to need a lot of work. I'm going to need to do this. There's probably £350,000 worth of work here. And I'm like, is there, or are you just using this now to try and get a better deal? So, tapping into his emotions, we sort of said, right, we'll take the number away. Is the house the right size? Is this shell the right size? Yes. Is the location right? Yeah, 90% right. I prefer to be a little bit further down the road, but this is the only house in the area available. Are the grounds right? Yeah, good size, perfect land. I've got great views. Just need to do this, that, and the other to it. Well, fast forward now, 12 months. You've done everything to this house. You've done everything to the house. You sat in it. Are you happy? Are you content? And he was like, oh, yeah, definitely. I can see it. Right, well, now let's put the number back. What's the number? What does the number look like to you to get you in this house? Because it's not going to be £350,000 off. So we can stop that conversation. What does it start with? Let's be sensible. So we started having conversations then about price. And it was nowhere near where the homeowner wants to be right now. But he's already told me all the things that he wants to do in that home. And he's envisaged himself living in it in 12 months' time. So I now know exactly what buttons to press. And he's full of data. He was full of data, telling me all about the market. And then he was telling me how much he would need to spend on it. But the other 3 people that I've got viewing it next week probably won't need to spend as much as him. So I can use these as leverage to get where we need to be. So all the data that he's proposing and the numbers that he's proposing are bullshit, to be honest with you. It comes
Can I
down
just
to
say on that, Dave, as well, like having that offer and that feedback and giving it to the seller, getting an offer and using it and giving it to the seller is great. Because what's that saying? If you don't get any viewings, the sellers blame the agent. If you get bad offers, they blame the market.
Well, do you know what, JK? This particular house is on at 1.25 million. And I was the lowest of 3 valuations. And I felt it was top it based on the fact that it probably does need a level of work doing to it. But we had a conversation. It's been on the market for 3 months. And we had a conversation, me and the owner, about 4 weeks ago, where they said, we're not in any rush, which is a classic, isn't it, from most vendors. But when they've gone away and had time to digest it and only had a couple of viewings since, they've now started saying, do you know what, David, in hindsight, what you told us is ringing true. We've not had much more interest yet in that last sort of 4 weeks since we last properly spoke about the market. We're moving into June, as it were, and like it's just rung with me now. You said to me, if we've not got a buyer by July, then we might be looking at 2027 in this house or Christmas in this house. So it then went towards price and their why, what they're trying to achieve. They've no chain. They don't need the money necessarily. They're successful people. What does the question started gearing towards, does £250,000 massively change your life? And that's a hell of a lot of money. But for these people, not so much. This whatever they get for this house goes straight into their pension pot, which I guess is already very, very full. And they were sort of like, not really, no. I said, well, what are we doing pissing around at 1.25 million then? And it just so happens that we've had a flurry of interest in the last week. And I've said, well, let's just hang fire. There's no point dropping it to 1 million right now. We've got 3 people that are coming to view it. One of them was yesterday. Let's see how the other 2 go next week. But their mindset has shifted enormously. They're now like, you know what, if we get anything over 1 million, we're happy. It's very saleable at 1 million. But I still think the next week or 2 could prove to be different. So just, again, having these conversations with sellers and buyers is very important. But I know it's not in the context of AI there and data, but the conversation at the viewing was very much that, and feeding that back to the seller has made them realise even more that, perhaps we do need to be a bit more realistic here.
I think there's a good conversation to have with sellers around price, though. We did one recently this week where it was around the sort of 450 mark, and other agents had said 475, 480, and we said really it's more like 430, 440, and it needs to be offers over 425. And then we went at a random price, and it being like 460, which kind of went against everything, but the sellers were insistent that that's what they wanted to try. So I said, look, we'll go with it. Anyway, nothing happened as expected. And I said, look, we need to do this. If you want to buy this other house and you want to get moving, this is what we need to do, because we haven't got all the time in the world on our side, but also equally, we're not in a rising market, so the market isn't going to catch up. You've both got good jobs. You're both like almost doubling the value of house that you're going to. You both earn good money. I'm not going to sit here and say I told you so, but what does it look like? Like you just said, Dave, a second ago, what does it look like if we end up getting 430, 435 for this house? How much is that going to impact your life over the next 5 to 10 years if you quote unquote lose 10, 15, 20 grand that you never had, that you're hanging on to? And she sat down and thought about it and said, actually, no, you're right. Yeah, let's just do it. And then we changed the price. 7 days later, it's sold. They're moving forward. They're buying the next house, and we're moving on. But sometimes there's a real skill in having that emotional intelligence and, again, tone of voice. If you sit there like a keyboard warrior on WhatsApp or an email, or just ignoring the client, things aren't going to change. But you need to be able to say, like, you need to change the price. I'm the expert, and this is what I do, and your price needs to change. You can beat around the bush all you want and blame the market, blame Iran, blame the mortgage, blame Brexit, or whatever it is. But the reality is, changing price. If the marketing is right, then it's the price.
Yeah, I think these are really valid points, and it's definitely reflective of the market we're in, and also kind of the other agents that we are talking to around the country. I know everybody's experiencing the same thing. I think to just bring it back to the AI and what can practically be done to help, I think it's back to basics. I mean, this isn't reinventing the wheel. It has to be that it goes relationship focused and not transactional. So the more kind of relationship building that the team can do throughout the whole process, it's then really hard to make a negotiation back to transactional when you've already got a relationship. So you can't be an arse to somebody that you actually genuinely like and have got a rapport with. It doesn't work that way, does it? So to kind of negate and get over these things that are happening in the negotiation, it starts from day one of the kind of client relationship to both seller and buyer. So I think the more focus that can go into that, the better. I think secondly, when somebody does come armed with all that data, it's making sure the people that are receiving that call can handle it in the right way. And I think some diffusion techniques can be really powerful. So often if somebody's coming in quite kind of formal, data-driven, bordering aggressive sometimes way of putting their offer forward, the first step is diffusion. And that can be as simple as, thank you so much for the offer. I really appreciate that you've taken the time to do some research, and I can see that this is important to you. Um, that that type of statement can really just take the wind out of someone's sales and stop it going straight to day to combat, because that isn't productive. Um, the other thing, which I know you mentioned, Ian, is to have your own market data and know it, but
Yeah.
say it in the right way. This can come across as you being a right knob, if it's said in the wrong way. Well, actually, the data says that, and you're wrong and I'm right. And that is not the type of scenario you want to be in. So getting the team to be able to relay data in the right way. And that might look like, I understand why you've got that picture of the market. It can be really nuanced and confusing. How we do it is, and this is what we know to have happened, X, Y, Z. If you want me to send you some more information on that, I'm really willing to do it, because I know how kind of confusing it can be when you're not looking in the right places, So it's how you say it, and tone, as you said, JK, is also really important.
I think what you're saying as well is spot on there, Michelle. And what backing up what you're saying is just a great shout. I mean, it's an obvious thing to do, but I don't think a lot of people will do it. Like being really nice about it and saying, "Let me send you some stuff about showing you about the local market conditions," because a lot of what people read and hear is national based.
Yeah.
The Rightmove Property House Price Index is the same. It's very national. I mean, yes, it does regionalise, of course it does, but it doesn't break down the narrative in your very local area. And that's why we use different types of data to really showcase the very, very local area. Because, I mean, a great example is where I am. There's an area called Lostock where I am, and it's right next door to another one called Heaton. The contrasts in house prices it's unbelievable. Like Lostock has come down 20% in a year, which is horrendous, really, but real. And people in Lostock need to get real. Just you are literally talking half a mile down the road, Heaton, slightly different postcode, but an extension of the same road. Even that has come down about 3%, nowhere near, and the activity's better. So when you read Bolton's statistics, the property market's gone up over a 12-month period. So people will say to me, well, house prices have been going up, haven't they, in Bolton? I'll say, well, not really. Let's look at the real data. BL64, where you live, we've actually come down 20%. It's one of the worst affected areas in Greater Manchester. Did you know that? Have a look at this graph. This is all land registry data, completed sales. And that's obviously, majority of the time you're working with sellers. But I think you've really touched on a good point there. Tone of voice is really important, but diffusing the situation and thanking that person for coming forward with something that's quite strategic and acknowledging what's happening and saying, I can understand why you might be being cautious and why you're worried, but let me educate you on what's actually happening in the local market here.
Yeah.
I'll show you exactly. So that house, I've had a house that I mentioned before, so it's on 800,000. They've offered 710, and he automatically thinks that the market is worse now than it was in 2021, and it's significantly better. And that's the conversation I had with him yesterday. Same sort of thing. That actually the market's gone up. I can show you that. I don't want you to be buying something that you've no confidence in, but let me show you why. And he also didn't know the circumstances behind the seller of that particular house, whereas I do. It was a private sale between father and son, and naturally it doesn't reflect anywhere near market value. So he didn't know any of that. And again, there's a couple of things. If that had all been done over email, that guy would have probably just walked away. Or if that's exactly what he thought the market had done, he probably would have just walked away if it had been flat rejection. But the conversation steered towards what has actually happened in the local market, the circumstances behind that sale. We want you to have a level of confidence buying this, and here there are stats to back it up. So I think you're absolutely spot on. It's how it's handled and the tone of voice that's used with it as well, and the empathy that you need to have with buyers in this market, because a lot of it's not all piss take. It's not all piss take. A lot of it is through fear. And I think you've got to respect that, and your sellers have got to respect that too.
Yeah, I agree. I think you do have to handle the buyer conversation very empathetically and strategically, and you also want to lead them to where you need them to be as well. But you can't do that without doing the other stuff first. You have to deal with the emotion before you deal with any logic.
Yeah.
So I think that's really a key takeaway for people in this age with, data so readily available.
Of everything we've talked about on this podcast for the last 30 odd minutes, that is the takeaway that you've just given there, the last 5 minutes. Yeah,
available every week.
I really believe it. Like you've said, that initial response to a derisory offer needs to be handled carefully, because your natural reaction, mine is when I see one, I'll fuck off. What is that? One of the girls reports an offer. Like, we've got an offer on Sheepfoot Lane. It's on at 900. It's 760. And my immediate reaction is, tell them to fuck off. But then you pick up the phone and go, "Hi, John. Thanks for your offer. Really appreciate what you've said and the reasons behind your offer, but it's not quite where we need to be." Like that, John. So yeah, honestly, it is. I think it's absolute gold, that, and take your emotion out of it as well. Like I've just said, the anger initially comes through. What a waste of everyone's time. Why have they viewed it? Why has the seller tied it up? And all that sort of stuff. Why have we sent a viewing representative there for the last hour? It's a waste of everybody's time, and you're coming in with that offer. But it's a sign of the market, driven mainly by, I think, fear a lot of the time, not piss take. So I think you just need to have those conversations rationally with buyers and sellers.
Yeah, agreed.
Well, it seems like a good place to call it. I think that's been value packed. Improv.
What it was value packed for the last 6 minutes when Michelle started talking.
Yeah. Like last week.
Yeah, I'm not coming again.
Anyway, on that note, we will see you all next week. We have got mastermind in 2 weeks, so there is still time to join if you are on the fence. We have a mastermind in 2 weeks.
Michelle's available.
Less than 2 weeks.
It's going to be great.
Yeah.
Michelle, can you just add some value on that really quickly? Can you just unpack it for me? Anyway, let's see you all next week. Thank you for listening, and have a great day.
Cheers, guys.
Bye.